So, but the great thing is that the senior fellows were able to still continue, and that's the hope for you as well. We're running out of time for sure. No, you're fine, no worries.
We'll make up for it. I promise, I'm sure.
I could just want to see the beginning. I realized I didn't see it. Okay, so forming. Perfect. I'm just going to say basically in this session, we'll focus on capstone project for Thank you so much. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I have my water bottle.
Oh.
I do. I try. I carry a lot of bags.
Okay. Because I was going to say freeze is like trying to slip up.
Yeah, no.
But
I called an Uber, so
okay.
leave later.
Gotcha.
It was trying to figure out how to pick up my kids, but my husband.
Well, appreciate the effort, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We can? Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Session 3B Climate Justice Fellows Program, Session 2. My name is Ariel Wharton. I'm a climate change and environmental justice specialist within CEEJH. Welcome, welcome. We have a treat today. We are joined by, oh, bless you, whoever that was. We are joined by our fellows, some of our fellows within the program. First up, we have Natasha Kavanagh, who's the Vice President in Social and Environmental Impact at Twilio. We have Sydney Rourke, who's a student here at the University of Maryland. We have William Scarborough, who's a Senior Employment Specialist at the Fortune Society. And last but not least, we have Yolanda Bonner, who's the Associate Director of Building Performance at IMT. My laptop just died. I'm so sorry for that. But doesn't matter, it's okay. The Climate Justice Fellows is an implementation program that we have within the CEEJH Center. The program consists of a 10-week module training session, and then the rest of the program will be allow the fellows to engage within a capstone project. The aim of our capstone project is to honestly really get their hands working, get on the ground within the community. So what we try to do is engage and connect our capstones with the community partners that we've already built relationships with across the Mid-Atlantic. So we have capstone projects working with Empower DC. We have capstone projects working with South Baltimore Community Land Trust. We have capstone projects with many different community partners across the Mid-Atlantic, including North Carolina and also New York. We have partnerships within those spaces, and of course that's not within the Region 3 area, but you cannot deny the partnerships that exist and the partnerships that can grow. So our fellows have had the opportunity to virtually move through these training modules, which can vary across green infrastructure, environmental justice, food injustices, food sovereignty, even climate change adaptation skills, and all these different qualities. So within the session, our capstone projects are going to focus on the urban heat island effect. Some are going to focus more on housing, as well as community change grants. I know that's a big buzzword. We've been hearing it a lot. It's not a buzzword, but we've been hearing it a lot within these past days. So something really important to speak on, as well as a big topic, food. So we are going to welcome our first fellow, Natasha Kavanagh, and she will be speaking about Sandy Springs Farm Collective. So welcome, Natasha.
Thank you. All right, thank you. How's everyone today? Good? Thank you for spending a Friday afternoon with us today. And first, I would love to thank just the fellowship program. It has been a wonderful experience, and I'm so glad to be a participant. So my project is super, super local. So I live in Sandy Springs. Show of hands, anyone know where Sandy Springs is located? Ooh, a couple people. Sometimes when I say I live in Sandy Springs, people say, oh, Silver Spring? I'm like, no, I said Sandy Spring. It's near, sort of, because everything almost is near Silver Spring, but it's really near only. And my project, hopefully this works here, my project is really focused on building community, a sense of community, and also just like two purposes, a sense of community, but also some revenue stream for Sandy Spring. We have a lot of unused residential land. So most of the community, it's a historic Black community, and I have a video that I will show to give you a little more detail about it and why it's so important. But we have most homes have anywhere between 3 to 5 acres of land, but it's unused land. And these families have been in Sandy Spring for generations and generations. And what we're starting to see now is that developers are coming in and saying, hey, you have one house on 3 to 5 acres, I will buy it. And then they put like 6 more houses on it. And we lose that sense of community, and it's starting to be pretty heartbreaking, and it has a huge environmental impact on our community, not only from that sense of community, but also in terms of land use. So my focus is to bring all of the residents together in a farm collective. So why a farm collective? Well, one, I think one of the reasons that we are seeing residents being willing to sell is because, again, they've been in these homes for generations. So the homes are worth a lot of money now with all of the land. And so it's that stream of income. So if we have a farm collective, not only does that build more connection to the land, it also has helps to build a sense of community, but it also has the potential to provide revenue for families. So instead of feeling enticed by developers who offer them a huge sum of money to sell their property, perhaps having the stream of revenue will also encourage them to stay in the community. So you'll see here, it's food security, but more importantly than that, it is about reconnecting with the land, reconnecting with our community and each other, and also having that income stream. One of the other things that our community has that I think is pretty unique is a long-standing farmers market. Anybody been to the farmers market in Olney? Yes, a couple hands too. So every Sunday there is a big farmers market there, and it is pretty diverse in terms of the vendors. But one thing you will notice, the vendors that sell fresh produce are not from the community. They're not from the community. And we really have a huge opportunity if we come together collectively and use our land together. We also have an opportunity right in our own community to provide fresh produce to others who come to visit. So again, it's about embracing our community's culture and history. I think, as you'll see in the video, this area for a long time has been used by African Americans in terms of farming, and we've just grown away from that in recent years. So I want to show you the video. So let me see if I can. Oops. Am I not pointing it the right way? Let's see. Hold on just a second. Yep, thank you. So while we bring the video up, one of the things that we also have that's atypical, I'm trying to share like the assets that we have in our community and why I think this project will work. One of the other things that we have that is very unusual is we have a community center. It's called the Ross Body Center. I don't know if anyone has been to the Ross Body Center in Sandy Spring, but it is a community center that is run by Montgomery County, but it's one of the small local-based community centers, and it serves as a meeting place for many of the residents there. And so we go to the video, because the other thing that you'll see in the video that we have as an asset that is really important to helping this project be successful is that we have one of the few slave museums in the region, also located in Sandy Spring. And so the video will show you a little bit, again, about the history and why this community is so important and why it's so important to retain the land in community ownership. Yeah. Yes, please do. I'm happy to take questions.
This is just a comment.
Yes.
Well, I want to invite your neighbors.
Yes.
To come to Brentwood.
Yes.
Ivory City, and look how we live, and they'll change their mind about developments coming in there. We don't have green space. We don't have the air quality over there is terrible because of the industrial.
Mm-hmm.
You have land. So,
Yes.
and the air flows at night. We don't have that. We don't have that. We just don't have that luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're inhaling, tracking trailers, trash trucks, transferring places. It's terrible. So I advise them to keep those developers out of there because
Yeah.
they're going to take all that away from them.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We can start to see that happen already because of the subdivision of lots, right? So we've had on the main road through Sandy Spring where the Slave Museum is located, it's called Brook Road. And there are huge plots of land. 2 of them in the last 2 years have been sold. And on where there used to be one house on 3 to 5 acres, you now have like 5 homes on that same plot of land. And so it just continues. And so it's really important, as you said, to make sure that, and you have to reach people one by one, right? Because if a developer goes to one homeowner and says, hey, this land that you own free and clear, that you got from your great grandmother, we can give you $900,000. They're like, we're going to take it. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to go because I know we're sort of running out of time now, but I want to, where's the video? I want to go back to, I think it might be the slide before this, if we can show the video. Oh, we can't show the video? Okay. Well, I will, if there's a way to share with the group afterwards, share the video, because I think the video really demonstrates, one, why this is important in this particular community. So since we can't share the video, I can give you just a quick highlight. Sandy Spring, and I encourage you to look it up, Sandy Spring, Maryland, is one of the few places where the Quakers actually settled in Sandy Spring, and they were the first in this region to emancipate their slaves. And so you had in this little pocket in Maryland a thriving community of free Black people years and years before slavery was abolished in this country. And that's why you have so much Black ownership of land in this particular community. And it's really important, again, as I said, to maintain that ownership. And this thought of having a collective farm in the community, one, again, addresses that issue to try to encourage people not to sell their land, give them help them with a new stream of income, and also reinforce that sense of community. So thank you. So it's called the Sandy Spring Slave Museum, and if you look it up, I think it's on, actually I can look it up on my computer and give you the exact information, because it was done by a public television station. Okay, we might be able to pull it up. Yeah, because I can probably pull it up on my laptop too. Like, it's super cool. It really is. It's super cool. Oh, someone said the Strawberry Festival? We also are known, yes, for a wonderful Strawberry Festival.
Always on over the weekends. Museum.
Let's see.
We're in front.
Oh, good, they found it. There.
Front of the Sandy Spring Quaker Meeting House.
Thank you.
We're only less than asking pretty serious questions about the issue of slavery that was involved in holding people in bondage. Between the 1770s and the 1820s, Quakers in Sandy Spring manumitted their slaves. Many of those slave families stayed on in this neighborhood and became wage laborers on the same farms.
We're at the Sandy Springs Slave Museum and African Art Gallery. We do a lot here. It's small, but it is mighty. So it's a lot packed into this museum. From the slave ship to the spaceship, and on to the White House, and contributions and achievements of African Americans in between, from inventions, politics, political science, exploration, you name it, we try to touch on it. We are on Brook Road, which was actually part of the free black settlement in here in Sandy Spring. Once the Quakers freed their enslaved people, people continued to work on Quaker farms and earn wages, and they started purchasing land. By 1830, there were 100 to 150 families here in Sandy Spring. The community coexisted harmoniously, from what I understand, but there was still separation. So the black community had to sustain itself with its own infrastructure.
This was an oasis for black folks because just 5 minutes away, people were still enslaved. And then these descendants are still here today, and this community is a very proud community of people who are descendants. I'm a descendant. I grew up here. My 4 times great grandparents were.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Can we give another round of applause? Next up, we have Sydney Rourke, who will be discussing the urban heat island effect. Give it up for Sydney.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Sydney, and today I will be discussing the urban heat island effect, as that is what most resembles my project and my future research. Oh. Down? Oh, okay. So now I'm going to give you a brief overview of what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to go over an introduction on who I am, talking about what the urban heat island effect is, who is most affected, the health effects that come with it, as well as my project with Empower DC, moving forward, and then thank yous. All right, so about me. Hello, I'm Sydney again. I'm a sophomore here at the University of Maryland. I'm majoring in environmental science and politics, and have also recently declared a minor in classics. I understand the two are very different, but I love history and Greek mythology, so thought I'd add something fun. Fun fact, I was introduced to environmental justice when I rescued a turkey in the 5th grade. We started a little tradition where we would rescue one before Thanksgiving, and this sort of introduced me. Is the microphone like really weird right now? Is it fine? Okay. But yeah, and from there I started doing a lot of animal welfare work and moved more into the social justice side of it, as industrial farming also has a lot of environmental injustice issues. But here's a picture of my turkey, not the one that started it all, but one of my recent ones. And then there's my horse, Nugget. Okay, so before I get into the introduction of what urban heat islands are, I just want to give a preface that this is a very deep and layered issue, and I'm just doing a very brief skim over it. So yeah. So pretty much urban heat islands is the effect where urbanized communities face a much higher temperature than rural areas, and this can be as a result of roads, buildings, industry, as they all re-emit the sun's heat and often lead to higher temperatures. Other factors include lack of green spaces, larger amount of vehicle emissions, and waste heat from buildings. And this is only projected to get worse as our human population increases, and as you all know, climate change is getting worse and is also contributing to these higher temperatures. So now I'm going to move into who is most affected and who is at the highest risk. The most affected are historically redlined areas, as they face a 2.6 degrees Celsius higher temperature than non-redlined communities. Also, low income and populations of color face much higher temperatures than white and high income areas. And all of this is a result of structural racism playing a role in policymaking today and leading to these disparities in temperatures. At the highest risk are individuals who are most vulnerable to heat stress, and this encompasses a large proportion of our population, such as elderly, pregnant, those who take medications that affect their ability to regulate temperatures, those with asthma, outdoor workers, those with heart diseases, children. Urban heat island effect also causes many birth-related issues, small for age deliveries, preterm births, and also overall increases early mortality rate. So 1,220 people on average in the United States die as a result of heat-related illnesses, and this number should not be as high as it is because it can so easily be avoided and mitigated. And this number is higher than the amount of natural disaster deaths per year in the United States, which is crazy to think about. And such a large proportion of this number is low-income and minority populations, as well as elderly, children, and pregnant women. Now I'm going to get into my community partner, who is Empower DC. They have been so kind in welcoming me into their community and helping me through each step in this process. But pretty much they are a nonprofit, and they are focusing on promoting environmental housing justice, racial equity through education, leadership development, outreach, and they are making so much change and are continuing to do so. Now I'm going to get into Ivy City. This is the area where my project is located, and I had the opportunity to visit there in August, where I got to experience the effects that these residents have to live with every single day. Starting off with noise pollution, there are two separate trains that run through this neighborhood, the Amtrak and then I think it was a cargo train, I'm not sure what it was, CSS. Then there's also a government vehicle parking lot where dump trucks come through and other large government vehicles, and this all contributes to noise and toxic fumes being released. Which are moving into noxious fumes. There is a engineering facility right in this neighborhood. It literally looks like any other house and completely be overlooked. But as we were walking through it, I could smell what I think it's formaldehyde and something else. And it was just so potent. And Sabrina, who walked me through Ivy City, told me that the people next door did not even realize that what was happening and what the smell was coming from, which I thought was very interesting. And all of this contributes to poor air quality and excessive heat. I went on a cool day, so I did not get to experience the excessive heat. However, I have only heard the stories and can imagine as walking through this area, there was no trees, maybe some patches of grass, which right here I have a picture of their tree equity score, which is 76, which means this city is at need for more green space and trees, as there's only 11% canopy cover in this area. And I truly believe that I had to experience being in Ivy City in order to talk on the subject, as I grew up in a very rural area in Montgomery County, and I just don't think I would be knowledgeable enough or have any ability to talk on this subject without experiencing it. So my project is I'm planning on making an infographic for Ivy City residents, and it will have a lot of information on what urban heat islands are, how it's affecting their health, and why is it affected and not other areas. And obviously other areas in DC are affected by the urban heat island, but in this case specifically Ivy City. And then they also recently have a grant to renovate a Black school in their area to become a rec and cooling center. So I've been doing a little research on what specific tree to use, the differences between cool roofs or green roofs, and the possibility of cooling pavements, and then also ideas for sustainable bus shelters. I found evaporative cooling systems or solar-powered fans. But however, evaporative cooling systems are not a good idea, as DC is a very high humidity area, and these are primarily for low humidity areas. So moving forward, I plan to complete my project to completion. I will continue to research sustainable options and completing my infographic. I think it would be best to probably hand it out, not in the winter, so it's relatable and some more in the spring or summertime, and hopefully have the opportunity to hand out these flyers directly. And I just want to thank you to everyone in Power DC, Blaine, Sabrina, Anthony, and Parisa for all giving me resources to continue this and welcoming me into their community, as well as Ariel for making this fellowship happen. I think I am the youngest fellow in this group, so it was definitely took me out of my comfort zone, but I'm so happy I did it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sydney. Honestly, I was going to make a comparison about how diverse our group is, because we have 18 plus professionals. So it starts with 18, Sydney's 18, youthful, and then we have two 70-year-olds, and they are youthful as well. So I just want to say our group is so diverse. You've heard from Natasha speaking on farming lands. We've spoken about the urban heat island effect, and now we will speak on community change grants, and specifically within New York. So welcome, William Scarborough.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm William Scarborough, and I'm not youthful. But I will start off, my climate fellow colleague started her presentation by saying that she was made in Virginia. So I will start by saying that I was made in New York. I was born and raised in New York City. I've lived there all my life, except for 2 years where I went to school in Washington, D.C. Spent most of my life in public service. Worked as a district manager of a community board, which would be the equivalent of a city manager in certain places. I spent 20 years as a state assembly member, a state representative. I left there. I went to work for an organization called the Fortune Society, which is the premier organization in New York City that deals with reentry and rehabilitation for people who've had involvement with the criminal justice system. I'm involved with my civic association, environmental justice organization, and that's what brought me to this fellowship. And the title of my project is Transformative Strategies for Environmental Sustainability in Southeast Queens. The target community in Jamaica, New York, is 3 census tracts in 2 neighborhoods called Bricktown and Brinkerhoff. These census tracts are designated as disadvantaged in the EPA IRA Disadvantaged Communities map by the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. The area consists largely of 1- and 2-family homes with a smaller percentage of apartment buildings and rental properties. The percentage of owner-occupied housing, 48.8%, is high in comparison to the rest of New York City. This area has been the subject of decades of disinvestment. The main street that runs through the heart of the area, Liberty Avenue, has become a magnet for noxious uses and heavy industrial facilities. The street has residences and a city park on one side, and the other side is zoned for light manufacturing, which is supposed to coexist easily with residential neighbors. However, instead of light manufacturing, there are waste transfer stations, junkyards, auto salvage facilities, a live poultry shop, a cement factory, and other toxic uses. This juxtaposition has led to the residents being overburdened by pollutants and an increase in respiratory ailments. The goal of this project is to obtain an EPA Community Change Grant to retrofit a number of homes in the target area and to seek to improve the indoor and outdoor air quality for local residents and provide a healthier quality of life. The census tracts that are the subject of this grant are 97% minority and over 20% are below the poverty line. As a community that is both minority and low income, it is especially vulnerable to environmental injustices, which is borne out by its proximity to these industrial polluters. Adults in Southeast Queens, which includes the target area, have the highest rate of asthma hospitalization in the borough of Queens, 231 adults out of every 100,000 as opposed to 141 adults out of 100,000 in the rest of the borough. The Climate and Environmental Justice Tool cites asthma in the 89th percentile in one census tract and 85th percentile in a second tract, diabetes in the 85th percentile in one tract and 76th percentile in the other. Average life expectancy in Jamaica is 0.7 years shorter than New York City as a whole. Again, according to the EPA EJ screen, the target area is in the 78th percentile for unemployment, the 83rd percentile for limited English proficiency, and the 78th percentile for having less than a high school education. New York City planning guidelines indicate that heavy industrial facilities that abut residences create noxious conditions that increase greenhouse gas emissions and lead to poor health outcomes. The Climate Change Project will seek to improve the quality of life and health of the residences that live close to these industries. The goal is to reduce exposure to diesel particulate matter, black carbon, gaseous pollutants, greenhouse gas emissions, and volatile organic compounds through a climate action strategy and pollution reduction strategy. The proposed green infrastructure strategies will capture airborne particulates on their foliage and degrade a number of gaseous pollutants. Retrofitting of residents' homes will mitigate indoor pollution, provide cleaner indoor air, and help to reduce respiratory ailments. The project also intends to install solar panels on residents' homes, providing clean energy at a reduced cost. Local residents will be offered the opportunity to be trained in green building operations and maintenance, which can lead to employment in green careers that can fundamentally change their lives. The organization that I work with, Southeast Queens Residents Environmental Justice Coalition, or SCEEJH, is a coalition of 5 civic organizations and community advocates that have come together for the purpose of addressing environmental challenges and improving the quality of life for residents of Southeast Queens in New York City. The 5 community organizations that make up SCEEJH, Addersley Park Civic Organization, the Brinkerhoff Action Association, St. Albans Civic Improvement Association, Greater Triangular Civic Association, and the 149th Street South Ozone Park Civic Association, have histories dating back to the founding of the St. Albans Civic Improvement Association in 1906. The mission of SCEEJH is to promote civic pride in maintaining a stable and desirable community through advocacy and direct liaison with community residents, city agencies, elected officials, and community-based organizations to ensure a clean, safe, and environmentally healthy community. SCEEJH is a Black-led organization whose members have secured victories for community residents. They successfully sued the waste transfer stations in the heart of the industrial zone to secure limits on pollution that will improve the water and air quality in the community, as well as helping to block legislation that would have brought more pollution into the area through increased waste truck traffic. CEEJH's advocacy was also instrumental in winning $1.9 billion for sewer infrastructure to combat severe flooding in the Southeast Queens area. This history and commitment makes CEEJH uniquely suited to undertake this air quality improvement and pollution reduction initiative. The objectives outlined in the Community Change application are primarily centered around Climate Action Strategy 3, which is creating energy efficient, healthy, resilient housing and buildings. This will involve conducting energy audits, retrofitting homes, including air sealing, moisture control, ventilation, and insulation. It also proposes to connect residents to solar and renewable energy systems that reduce energy use and increase cost effectiveness. It will also include pollution reduction strategies 1 and 2, improving indoor and outdoor air quality and improving community health. This will include the home retrofitting described above, educating residents about ways to reduce or eliminate their exposure to harmful air pollutants, encouraging the use of high-efficiency particulate air filters and vacuum cleaners to reduce particulate matter. Efforts to address outdoor air quality will include conducting workshops that train community residents to build and maintain green walls that help reduce air pollution, siting green walls around industrial facilities such as the waste transfer stations, and possibly around parks and homes, and working directly with the industrial facilities to reduce their production of pollution. The parties to this application are York College, which is part of the City University of New York, which serves as the lead applicant. York College is currently involved in an initiative to measure and quantify the stationary source air pollution emitted within a 1-mile radius of the solid waste facilities in Southeast Queens, which cause respiratory illnesses and increase stress to residents. Southeast Queens Residents Environmental Justice Coalition, or CEEJH, is the statutory partner in the application. As I mentioned, members of CEEJH were parties in a successful lawsuit that committed the waste transfer stations to improve their operations and reduce pollution by completely enclosing their facilities and taking other steps. They have also succeeded in lobbying for city legislation reducing the volume of commercial waste concentrated in certain disadvantaged communities. These two primary partners in the application have brought together a team of experienced organizations to accomplish the objectives of this initiative. Neighborhood Housing Services of Queens has provided housing assistance to Queens residents for 28 years. They are contracted by New York State to provide home retrofitting, weatherization, solar panels, and other services. NHS will be the primary entity providing the central components of this initiative. The Fortune Society has served as the premier organization providing reentry and rehabilitation services to New York City residents with involvement in the criminal justice system since 1967. Fortune will provide training in green building and operations to roughly 50 local residents per year. Residents will be trained in green construction and deconstruction, and HVAC, and will receive OSHA and EPA certifications that will allow them to obtain employment in lucrative green careers. HedgeWorks is an organization that is experienced in creating green infrastructure, such as green walls and green hedges that help to reduce pollutants and greenhouse gas emissions. They also train residents to design and maintain green infrastructure. Shiloh Baptist Church is the primary religious institution in the heart of the target area and is the hub for community and neighborhood activities. The church will be the focal point for community meetings, forums, workshops, and training sessions. We're almost there, folks. I have worked with CEEJH to help to pull together the application and assemble the partners involved in this initiative. We've met regularly to refine CEEJH's role in the project, which will include outreach to community residents, conducting surveys, coordinating resident participation in meetings, workshops, trainings, and their involvement in decision-making. I was also instrumental in bringing the Fortune Society into the project. My years of employment with this organization allowed me to witness firsthand the invaluable training which prepares vulnerable populations for lucrative green careers. Their involvement will allow residents to be trained for jobs, retrofitting and weatherizing the houses in this project, and long-term, they can utilize this training to pursue well-paying careers. I also helped to research and write certain sections of the application, such as detailing the sustainability of these efforts after the 3-year time frame of the EPA grant. The critical next steps for this initiative will be the EPA decision whether or not to approve this application. If the application is approved, I will work with Squarish to engage and recruit community residents. I will also have a role in conducting meetings and workshops, as well as educating residents about the training provided by the Fortune Society and helping to recruit residents for the training. I will also help to monitor the progress of those residents as they undertake the Fortune Society training and their employment prospects after the training. This initiative, if approved and implemented, will provide benefits long after the 3-year time frame of the grant. Studies have shown that home retrofitting and the installation of solar energy have proven to be cost-effective and energy efficient more than a decade after installation. The training that residents will receive from the Fortune Society will allow them to obtain emerging green jobs that can permanently change their career trajectory. And the green walls and green infrastructure that will be installed under this initiative will continue to reduce pollutants for many years to come. I'm hopeful that this application will receive EPA approval and can move to implementation. The residents of this community have suffered from decades of disinvestment and have been subjected to noxious conditions that have negatively affected their health and their quality of life, and they deserve relief. I want to thank York College, CEEJH, and the other partners in this project, and I also want to thank Dr. Sacoby Wilson, Ariel Wharton, and my climate justice fellow colleagues for your guidance and support. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, William, otherwise known as Bill, to be fair. He prefers Bill, so thank you, Bill. Our next fellow, next presenter is Yolanda Bonner. Come on up, Yolanda. Give a round of applause for Yolanda.
Look at that. They say the best for last. I don't know if I did too much or if I didn't do enough, but it did come from a personal perspective, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. All right, so welcome to my presentation on reinventing resilience, transforming communities with sustainable housing and green career training. My name is Yolanda Bonner. As she said earlier, I am the Associate Director of Building Performance with the Building Innovation Hub, which is a product of IMT, Institute for Market Transformation. And my project, within the structure of this project, we were asked to define quite a few things that we will be graded off of. I will be speaking to a lot of those things, but there are two that I wanted to pull out and highlight as I talk through these slides. The first one is the title. I think everybody that I've shared my slides with asked me, where did I get that title from? Reinventing Resilience. I kind of floated back and forth between two titles, which is Reinventing Resilience and Fostering Resilience. Let me give you a little bit of information. My partnership is with South Baltimore Community Land and Trust. If you think about Baltimore, there's no such thing as transforming anymore. There's reinventing. And if you look at the definition of reinventing, it means to suggest a fresh and innovative approach. And that's my goal here with this project and this plan. So, the project itself, it aims to advance South Baltimore Community Land and Trust efforts in sustainable housing while simultaneously piloting a green workforce training program. We're focusing on two main objectives, which is enhancing South Baltimore's housing portfolio with eco-friendly practices and creating job opportunities in the green sector. This approach will help build more resilient and vibrant communities in Baltimore and beyond, while also fostering economic stability for future generations to come. There are three key focuses within this project that I'm going to highlight for you guys. The first one being sustainable housing solution, innovative design and construction techniques to create energy efficient, environmental friendly homes. The second key topic is green careers and training, a comprehensive program set to equip community members with skills for sustainable jobs in renewable energy, urban agriculture, and green infrastructure. And transformative community impact, because we know that none of this can be done without engaging the community. You have to engage the communities that you're serving. So empowering local residents to lead the transition to a more resilient and eco-friendly future. A little bit of history about South Baltimore Community Land and Trust. The South Baltimore Community Land and Trust's history is community focused. So I want to make sure that I include within this project my goals to connect with the community to make this project successful. Their mission is to provide affordable, sustainable housing aligned with the goals of reinventing this resilience project, making them a key partner for me in helping to transform communities in the South Baltimore area. South Baltimore was established in 2015. Their focus is on affordable housing. Again, they are community driven. And they have this environmental sustainability approach. Their mission also includes a focus on sustainability and incorporating green building practices and promoting energy efficient in its housing developments. Their current pipeline includes about 42 to 43 total units right now. And with those units, there are about 15 units that are either ready for occupancy or approaching ribbon cutting ceremonies that are coming up in the next few weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's about maybe nine that are coming up with ribbon cutting ceremonies. And the rest are set to be online or ready for completion around Q2 or Q3 of 2025. All homes are created and sold by South Baltimore Community Land and Trust, and they will always remain affordable for generations to come. This is not just a temporary thing, not as they grow where they let go of the affordable piece. That affordable piece is so important in helping to transform us from one sector of our lives to the next. So that was another thing that sealed the deal for me in partnering with them on this project. The project's key objective, of course, is, again, expanding their housing portfolio. The plan is to increase the number of affordable housings by 15 to 20% over the next 3 years. And I guess you guys can tell that with the 3-year project that this is not a hit it and quit. They're not going to get rid of me that easy. I plan to be with South Baltimore for quite a few years after this project. We plan to implement sustainable practices where we will integrate renewable energy sources, water conservation methods, and energy efficient building materials, such as creating homeowner manuals to go along with these houses as they're developed and occupied or purchased by individuals in the community. These manuals will contain best practices to maintain and sustain their homes. And we're also going to, as I stated earlier, pilot, I should have changed that word from develop, but pilot a green workforce training program. I know when people hear workforce development, they say that there are so many workforce development projects throughout DC, Maryland, and Virginia. There are, but there's two differences here. One, there's not a green workforce development program, and they don't have Yolanda working on their program. So in order to reach those goals, we had to set a strategic focus. And within the strategic focus, our projects are centered around expanding the housing portfolio and implementing sustainable practices and piloting, again, the first ever workforce training program. To bring these objectives to life, we have to identify our key focus areas. One being sustainable housing solutions, of course, the community outreach and engagement. We want to create a model that's scalable. So what we start in South Baltimore, we would like to take all over the area. I'm sorry, you have a question? Yes, ma'am. They range from different square feet. I know there's a 4-bedroom that was about 1,700 square feet, but some are like 7, 6, 5. They range from different areas, different sizes in square feet.
They're getting smaller and smaller. You know, a lot of people have children, and the way they're building them is you can't hardly get a twin size bed.
We'll talk about that after this. We'll see how can we combat that after this.
Okay.
So these are some of the strategic focuses that we plan to gear ourselves towards, and they represent the core pillars of the Sustainable Housing Initiative. So now we're going to just take a deeper dive into the deliverables and the implementation plans that will bring these focuses to life. Working with South Baltimore Community Land and Trust, we're still in the initiation phase. So a lot of this project is still talk, and we're still trying to decide on which way we're going to go with it. But I think when I had my first meeting with them, they saw the passion that I had for housing. And that brings me to the second structured question that we had that Ariel gave to us while completing this project. For me, this is lived experience. I was a young mom, very young, who struggled to find housing. And if I get emotional, forgive me, but I remember when my son and I lived in a car. I remember when I couldn't find a steady job. And luckily enough, someone led me to trades. And learning a trade, I tell everybody now, learning a trade saved my life. But the person who led me to it didn't let me go. So he kept me through that program. He kept me through that field. And that's what I plan to implement in that green training program and in these houses, because I've been there. So I know what the struggle is. And so my goal is to make sure that this is successful. But I think after talking with them, they saw the passion. And then my background itself is in facilities management and operation. I manage properties, construction properties, renovation. I spent the last 10 years with DGS, Department of General Services in DC. And I managed all of the firehouses in DC. So I saw some brand new complete renovations, and I saw just regular small kitchen renovations. And so they saw that and was like, maybe there's a possibility to have her do some stewardship coordination work with us, to help us create these manuals, to help us do this community outreach. And so I'm very excited about that piece. Another deliverable is creating a strategic plan for outreach. Those homeowner manuals. Those homeowner manuals, they may not sound like they're important, but they really are, because if you think about the Black and brown community, we're the last ones to understand this clean energy initiative. We're the last ones to know what is what in this. Why put them in a home that they wouldn't know how to maintain? Why put them in a home and not give them the education on how to maintain it? And even after those classes that we put them in to help them, you still want to leave them with something that they can go back to. They will always be able to come back to, I'm sure, a community center that's associated. But you want something in your home that'll kind of help guide you through that process as well. Some other implementation of research and proposals to help make sure we find funding and keep this project going, as well as just regular marketing and community engagement. This is what I call a projected project progression, because again, this is initiation phase, and this is what I would like to see, but we know how projects go. And you can see we have it from Q4, which would start October the 1st, where we finalize this entire project. Starting January of 2025, we complete some site assessments to find other places within Baltimore to put different affordable housing. The second half of 2025, I would love to commence construction on the first phase of some of those new units. But, you know, that all depends on funding. The third quarter of 2025, we will complete the initial phase of those sustainable housing in Q2, but we will also initiate the first cohort of that green training program. And then in the final stage of 2025, we will evaluate everything that we've done that year. We'll evaluate the curriculum, the training program, how we went about determining the next phase of houses or the next groups of houses, just the research all in all, just the word I want to use is not coming to mind, but, just sit down and just do a revamp of that previous year, and then start this thing all over again in 2026. So, like any project, we have our potential challenges and risks. I'm not going to go through them all, but the main one, regulatory hurdles. We know redlining has always held us back, so we do expect that to be a challenge in the future. You also have skill gaps. My current job allows me to work with a lot of contractors and vendors. You know that you have individuals that don't know this work, but believe it or not, there are a lot of contractors that don't know the ins and outs of green jobs. They're very far and few. And then you have supply chain disruption and scalability concerns. But of course, with challenges come successes. And I do plan to have a ton of successes in this project with increased funding, successful partnerships, improved sustainability metrics for the individuals that do take over ownership of the houses. And I think the one that really matters the most to me is just strengthening the local economy, putting something back into them, into their economy, and just the birth of a new green workforce program. That being said, my partnership with South Baltimore Land and Trust is very critical. I cannot do this without them. And there will be other partnerships, like with the workforce training program. We have schools that we plan to connect with. We have trades associations that I'm looking to connect with, and other workforce development programs. The key factor in that training program is going to, again, be that green education. It's funny, and please don't, anyone take this the wrong way, but I feel like God lines things up for a reason. And I've taken so many training classes and met so many different people that I'm like, I can pull this person to help deliver this message and put them here. So this is all lining up. I'm very excited about it and the partnerships. And of course, with that being said, we have the long-term impact. Of course, successful, affordable housing, a skilled workforce, the environmental justice aspect, and the economic stability that it would create. And this is how we plan to get there. Our next steps: continue to define this project and expand this project scope, identify and secure potential partners, secure additional funding and resources, and to just overall, for me, deepen my collaboration with South Baltimore Community Land and Trust. So, in that, I chose this saying: we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. We created this, no matter how you look at it, but we have to change our way of thinking if we want to get past it. The biggest hurdle that I've seen in my current position, and stealing from Sydney, I'm just learning about environmental justice 2 years ago. And I'm from Mississippi, the backwoods of Mississippi. Never knew, didn't understand it, and I owe credit to my current job. But the biggest struggle I've seen is environmental justice, and this fight has been going on for so many years, but it hasn't been successful because they're excluding the group of people who can make it successful. So we have to stop excluding that Black and brown community. You have to bring them to the table. You have to sit with them and find out their concerns, their issues, and what plagues them the most, because there's no way we're going to reach that goal of becoming carbon neutral without them. So that being said, I want to thank Ariel, Dr. Wilson, South Baltimore Community Land and Trust, everybody who cried with me because I just knew I was not going to get this thing done. And thank you. I'm happy. Questions? I'm sorry.
I do. So I'm curious, what quote-unquote green education models are you looking at in terms of the training? And then in terms of green or sustainable housing, what models are you looking at to incorporate and build those houses?
So as far as the green training, I'm going to have to say, I saw there was a Green Building 101. There is Intro to ESG. There's Intro to Decarbonization. We're going to start with the basics because I know the community and the people that I'm coming at with this. I'm assuming that no one knows anything. So everything in this green program is going to be with the basics. As far as the affordable housing, I think for me, the overall goal is to just make sure that we're putting people in position to not only purchase these houses, but to maintain and sustain the houses. You can put someone in a home, but after that, what? No, not everybody, not even me, knows what it takes to maintain or sustain a house. So the affordable aspect is that homeowner's manual that we plan to create. We want to make sure that they understand that changing a light bulb is not just changing a light bulb. We got to start looking at LED lighting. We have to start looking at all different, you have to start paying more attention to what you're putting into your house. So the affordable aspect for me is not just being able to afford it, but being able to maintain and sustain it.
Right, so I asked that question because oftentimes when we look at green building principles, especially when it comes to residences, they're often higher than when we implement green building principles in commercial in industrial practices, just because we don't have the budget to be able to do that. So I'm more curious about the models you're going to use to build these homes so that people can afford to maintain them. So for example, like in my house, I have tankless water heater, I have solar panels, and you made the point that even some contractors, they're not skilled in maintaining something or fixing something when an issue occurs. So the price is often higher if something breaks. So what thought have you guys given into that? So I'm just curious.
I may not be fully understanding the question you're asking, but I do know that a lot of the homes that South Baltimore Community Land and Trust build are passive homes. They do have modular units that they are looking into as well. Quite a few of them are modular. And again, this for me is just the initiation phase. I built these slides off of 2 meetings. I haven't even had the chance to go and tour the area yet, so some people are way ahead of me. But the research that I did do, I know that they're looking at quite a few modular units to make sure that this thing is just not just affordable, but it's affordable in all aspects. So.
Ms. Sherwood in the chat said, so true in knowing how to maintain the home and make it green certified. She also asked, for the fellow that did the South Baltimore presentation, are the homes built using the tiny home concept?
As of right now, there are none that are that I know of that are using a tiny home concept, but I'm almost certain that there will be. We will be. Again, this is just an initiation phase for me, but all of this information that you guys are giving me and all the questions you're asking, I'm actually going to take them back to the table. And I have to say to Toby, who's sitting back there with South Baltimore Community Land and Trust, you can help me out whenever you get ready. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say to that question, and you brought it up with regulatory, certain areas you're not allowed to put tiny homes unless they've actually zoned it. So that's a piece of that too.
Okay. Thank you. No more questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda. Are there any more questions before we end the session for any of our fellows? Well, as you can see from both our sessions, you can either fight for environmental justice within your own communities, like Natasha for Sandy Spring and Bill within Jamaica, Queens. But also you can use your passion to find and connect with another community partner like Yolanda and Sydney, who are working with our Match and TikTok partners, Empower DC and SBCLT. So we've heard from 2 of our Climate Justice Fellow sessions. We have 2 more tomorrow, so y'all can find your way back to us. Honestly, I just wanted to say, and I didn't say it in my other session, these have been wonderful presentations. I thank you all for the passion. You mentioned the passion that you've all brought to this particular program. Some people walking in not having any idea about environmental justice, but some people having a touch and just wanting to learn more. So it's your excitement and veracity that pushes this program too. So thank you all for joining, and I hope you enjoy the closing plenary and have a good evening.
Thank you for finding it. It was great.
I'm sorry, let me just